It looks like the sound is working now. Welcome, everyone. We now have a series of power talks on a number of topics that really touch upon each other, so they can also be viewed as one big session. I'm very happy to see what a nice lineup we have. Unfortunately, one of the speakers has not reported to be here yet, so we might have a slightly shorter program, but we definitely already have some of the speakers here. And it's my great pleasure to announce someone I'm happy to call a friend. I've known him for a long time. Hossam Haggag, who has been working for Hilton for a long time and then went into education after also working in other parts of the industry. And after spending some time in the north with our friends from Stenden, he's currently with Hotelschool Hague, where he's working and looking over the industry context. But I think the title that fits him best is talent management professional, because that's what you have dedicated your life to. He's going to enlighten us in the field of empowerment, the very important, I would say management role or technique to really create engagement and to really get people to be part of your team. Please give it up for Hossam Haggag.
Let me check the mic. I think I can be heard, so that's good. Thank you so much, Sander, for the introduction. Today we're going to talk about this topic of empowerment, the construct of empowerment. As Sander said, I work about 30 years in the business of hotels, 5 years in the education world. So what I'm going to cover with you today is a mixture of both, the 30 years of the business and 5 years of academia in that case. I've attended the last speaker, and one of the things that I've learned is that the more people take pictures of the slides, the better you are. So feel free to take pictures. Feel free to contact me if you would like to have the presentation as well in order to cover it together. Now, talking about the empowerment, as I mentioned, I'll try to take it academic first, and then we'll come to real life and what happens in the real life. Empowerment, if you look at the kind of definition in the books and literature, you have different definitions, but it's one of the definitions that I feel a bit closer to my heart, and you can find some key words here. One, which is self-direction, so people can decide for themselves what they have to do. The other part is about sharing power and control, having autonomy in the do things. All nice words, lots of researchers did studies about it, but what really happens is that we need to remind ourselves about why it matters. It matters because it's important for the opportunity for the employees. It matters because it's also help business to grow. There are some researches are about this topic, but also can improve your retention, which is another type of benefit that you can get as a company. So if all good, so what some companies do, I did a quick search. The last two companies is Hyatt and Hilton. I work for both of them. Every company, especially big companies, they always look for how they can demonstrate a culture of empowerment. So if you look at it, you say, wow, if you work in Hilton and you say, catch me at my best to make it right, you'll feel like everybody's empowered. Huh? I worked for this company for 16 years, hired for a few years as well, have lots of friends in a lot of companies, and when you talk to people, they say, are you really empowered? You feel like, oh, not all the time. Huh? There must be something that you hear here and there. So why it is not always working? From the experience that I've seen is that our business in hospitality, unfortunately, is based on SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. I still remember, I worked in learning and development. You come to work for Hilton, the first day that we do orientation day. This is the Standard Operating Procedure. This is how we do things. Huh? And here you go, if you have somebody coming from hotel school or finished education, come with the age of 20, 21, but why we do this? No, you have to listen. We have the Standard Operating Procedure. We have been in the business for 100 years, 80 years, 70 years. So our business is based on brand, based on consistency, based on how we do things. So that's a challenge. The other one is high turnover. I don't have to tell you that in different parts of the world, turnover can be above 50%. So the time that you empower Austin, following day I'll have somebody called John, and I have to start all over again. Huh? So the turnover also hurt the business. Time constraints the need for fast decision. Our business is not really a consultancy where you can send me something and I can spend days and hours in order to, or hours and days in order to think about it. It is very on the spot. So if you empower somebody, you might say, am I doing the right empowerment or shall I do it myself in that case? And the last but not least is the traditional hierarchy. I still remember the first time that I worked in a hotel, long time ago. It's organization chart, general manager, assistant general manager, deputy, I don't know what, a lot of layers that makes empowerment so difficult. So if you'd ask me what you should do, you should go to each one of the four and say, can we do something about it? Is there an SOP that is so not holy that I can put it on the table and say how we can do it, how we can do it differently? I'm not asking the hotel industry to change completely, but there are opportunities where we can look at every part and say, does it have to be like this? I understand that some of these things are outside our control, circle of concerns, as Franklin Covey mentioned. High turnover, you cannot do anything about it. People decide to leave when they want to leave. But there are certain parts here where we can say we have control. We can challenge it and can do it in a different way. And I think in order to solve it, I reflect on it since I know that I'll come to you guys and speak, and there are two main components that we can look at. One, which is a concept and the construct of trust. Big word, trust. How can you create trust in your organization in order to enable empowerment to take place? And the second part is accuracy of decision making. So I'm going to talk about these two and see what are the things that we can do to improve trust and what are the things that we can do to improve decision making while the time is of essence because our business is 24/7 and we cannot take a lot of challenges in that case. If you look at the first part, which is the first challenge of trust, if you analyze trust, a lot of literature talk about two components in trust that can make the environment trustworthy. One, which is the character, the values. Oh, even one of my colleagues is taking a picture of me. That's unbelievable. I'm impressed. So the character part is about how can you make individual character for yourself as a manager, and how can you make a character for the organization, the values of the organization. The more you explain this, the better you can instill trust. The other one is competence. How can you help people to do what they have to do so that you don't have to have your heartbeat going up because I empower you to do this or empower you to do that. The other part of the medal or the balance is decision making. In order to have decision making flow, which is very difficult to a lot of us, accept failure. Can you accept failure? Can you live with it? Can you consider failure as the first step of success? Can you help people say you did it, you messed it up, what did you learn, how we can make it better? Difficult to do, but I encourage all of us to try it because the gain is immense. And the last one is willingness and capability. I still remember one of my first early days, I was certified to do a situation leadership from Ken Blanchard, very famous kind of psychologist who worked with two concepts is will and capability. If you will to do something, if you have the will to do something, capable to do it, you will make the right decision. So helping people to do that. So my advice to all of us is that how can you work on the four different pillars in order to make sure that trust can be within your companies. Now to address this, the competence part, you have to invest in knowledge. I myself, I was part of the learning and development cycle for more than 30 years. You have to continue investing in people. You cannot empower somebody to do something while he or she are not aware of it. So very important and show positive behavior. The character part, really show the integrity, what you stand for as a manager rather than talk about all the data and the history and all that. So what you stand for. I started working the last 5 years in education, as Sander said. The new people who are coming to the education world between 17 to 20, 21, they care about the purpose. If you don't hear the word purpose and the values in your discussion with them in the beginning, early stage, they will leave us. They will not stay with us anymore. To address the challenge of decision making, we mentioned a bit about accepting failure, as we mentioned, and also the willingness to capability, but there are four different things. One, manage expectation. Before you empower somebody, say, that's what I expect. Get me what you expect and give me the parameter of it. Have a helicopter view. Don't give laissez-faire and that's it. You're on your own because it can cause you trouble. And we'll talk about this trouble later on. And build a strong and compatible team as well. Try to make sure that people can complement each other, not carbon copy. The last one is technology. I still remember late days when you do the scheduling, the roster in a hotel. It used to be, this is the roster, you and you morning, you and you in the afternoon, and you just do it and set in stone. You have to go and big on your feet in order to tell the manager, can I just change with Austin about this day or this shift? Nowadays, technology makes it easy for us in order to make sure that we can give some empowerment to people. This is your roster. This is the business level. You guys, you can go online and see how we can make it up. I can only interfere as a manager if I need to. So technology help us nowadays. This is just one example of many examples you can think and say, what else can I do to ensure that we can give a bit of decision-making capability and the power and autonomy that we talked about. When I went through the research, I was talking with my colleagues in Hotelschool, The Hague, and one of my colleagues said to me, by the way, Hossam, you're talking about this empowerment. Let me give you another article, because empowerment looks good on the surface, but it can cause you trouble. And there are some researchers who did some work in it and say, it can go wrong. So when you do empower somebody, try to put in mind that it can go wrong, and it can go wrong in two main areas. One which is ethical. So in that case, people can do wrongdoing because they are empowered to do things. Of course, if you have the component of the character integrity is there, then it will be fine. The other part is frustration and anxiety. If I'm not prepared, I might be frustrated and have anxiety as well. So my advice is that in order to not to be naive and say, I'll empower everybody, make sure that you have set the moral compass. Make sure that you say what you stand for, what is right, what not right. I think it's easy in some small companies. The larger the company, the more difficult it can be. So try to see what is, lead by example, establish the values and be clear about it. The other part is about to prevent the frustration is support mechanism. If I fail, what can I do in order to, where can I fall and get help from? And then make sure that you can avoid this bureaucratic corridor talk that we just, some of us know. The last couple of things that I want to say to you is that it's not a choice. It is like kind of what we talked about in sustainability session before. I think we all have to do it. If we don't do it, we'll not have people working for us. The new generation, the alpha generation, are looking to be empowered. They are looking for the employer of choice who can give them opportunity to say what they can do and not to say, you're empowered, but by the way, you cannot do this and this and this and this, which sometimes unfortunately happens. Or I'm listening to you, and when I listen to you, I say, but you have to have a hard work, you have to sweat, you know what I mean? Try to walk the talk as much as possible and make sure that you can attract and retain generation alpha. Create a sense of purpose. Purpose is extraordinarily important in this equation. This is just a quick thing about what I want to say to you. I would like to thank you for listening and wish you all the best in empowering your team back home. The big subject, but I thought that I'll give you the highlights, and I'm open for any questions if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hossam. Very well done. If those of you are very strict on time, I've given him a little extra time because one of the speakers is missing in the program, so we stretch it a bit because there's so much interesting content. So there is a little time for a bit of Q&A. Let me open up first. I think you made it very clear what to do and that it has to be sincere. One of the questions is, and you obviously have worked in different parts of the world, what is the cultural dimension of all this? Because is this a model that's applicable in any work culture, or do you see limitations or options?
Very good question, and the culture piece has got different layers. You have the layer of the company, layer of the place that you work in, like what you said, in different parts of the world. So you have a company like, international company like Hilton, big company. So you have the CEO who say, we want to empower people. Then you go to the layer of the region, which is Europe, for example, in our case. Then the layer of the country, which is the Netherlands. And then you have the layer of the city, and even the layer of the general manager identity. And during all of these layers, things can go wrong. And I think one of the difficult things, going back to what I said before, the larger the company, the more difficult it is, because you can hit different missteps in all the layers. The other layers that we said or the other point that we can look at is that how can you make sure that you have some alignment between all of these layers? A lot of companies do that, but from what I've seen personally, the smaller the company, the newer the company, the more you can see this. Once you hit a certain number and you have now big regions and hierarchy started to cripple a bit, it's very difficult to manage it unless you have a really good system and good culture. And newer companies like the Hilton and the Marriott, wonderful companies, I learned from them a lot, but it's so difficult to change a beast. It's a culture of 90 years where, like we said, it's location, location, location. Sustainability didn't exist 100 years ago. Or at least exists, but not in the way we see it now. So to change a DNA of a company that was set in certain ways and try to move it towards the new generation, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of dedication, and it takes time. If you have a company that you work for which is small, new, it's far easier to make the culture change and the culture adaptation in that case.
Are there any questions? It appears as though you've been crystal clear.
I know,
you
and
always are.
it's lunchtime as well, so that
Do you think enough people took pictures of the slides, or?
I think so. I saw a couple, but thank you so much. And as I said, it is just a quest in order to see what can we do. And I must say that if we don't do it and do it quickly, we'll find. I know the technology is good. We have some robots can take some jobs in some hotels, but we need still humans. And if we find a lot of people who are studying even for hotel education and don't find it an interesting to add value and add purpose, we need to work together to make sure that we can get the right people to work for our lovely industry.
Thank you so much. Hossam, Haggag. And as I already announced you, our second speaker is not here. He was supposed to talk about technology. That asked me, can you fill in? But I'm afraid I can't do that at such a short notice. But obviously, we live in a day of high tech and high touch. We just talked about the human element, and I think we all agree that in our industry it's still a vital part, but the technology will be addressed at another day. But we're very happy that our next speaker, who was programmed to be third, has agreed to step in a bit earlier to make sure that you can be here. It's the human element that is going to be central, and it's also very much about the balance between technology and the human element. I'm very pleased to welcome to the stage Teun Dielesen, leisure strategist at Diema Leisure.
Do you have the pointer? Do you have the pointer, perhaps? Ah, perfect. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah, I got it. Thank you. All right, a very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this power talk about the human element of hospitality. And I'm actually very glad that I'm right behind this session on empowerment, because I think my story actually continues quite a bit on this story. In the next 10 minutes or so, I'll be giving you a quick insight into the human interactions in hospitality, because I truly believe that human interaction is how we make a difference in our industry. Well, before we start, a quick introduction about myself. My name is Teun Dielesen. I work as a leisure and hospitality consultant for Diema Leisure. But before I did this, I was the COO of Attractiepark Toverland, which is in the upper right corner. Toverland is nowadays the second largest theme park in the Netherlands. And after that, I was the CEO of Mind Mystery, which is an experience museum in the south of the Netherlands. Right, so what I'd like to ask you, or ask yourselves, what is your competitive advantage as a business? Ask yourself that question, discuss this with your team. And I'm quite sure that some of you might actually say, for instance, it's my revenue optimization, that's my competitive advantage, or it's my bedding, or it's my location. And you're all correct. These are, like characteristics or elements of your businesses with which you actually differentiate or, distinguish yourselves from your competitors. However, I truly believe that true hospitality is delivered through human interaction, that it's actually the human interaction that distinguishes you from your competition and that differentiates us. For instance, how many times do your guests, when they check out, actually say, oh, I really loved the digitized check-in process. I loved it was all digital and so quick online. I loved it. I mean, some of them might actually be saying this, and it's very good. I mean, don't get me wrong. But I think it's the human interaction that makes a difference. You can have a beautiful restaurant, a beautiful F&B location, but if the waiter that is serving your customers is outright rude or unknowledgeable, I think you're doing more harm than good, actually. No offense to the F&B location, of course. So true hospitality is delivered through human interaction. Does this mean, in my opinion, that you should therefore avoid all new disruptive technology and only focus on the human element of hospitality? No, of course not. However, what I would like to encourage you is to think about your service, the service that you deliver from a point of view from your customer journey. So improve any touch point that you can improve in your customer journey in any way possible. So optimize your processes, train your staff, implement technology, but make sure that the guest interactions that remain when you use technology, make sure that those matter. These have to count. For instance, at Toverland, at the theme park I just talked about, a few years ago, we introduced those self-ordering terminals where you can order your F&B or your food, you use the screen, It's convenient, right? It's amazing technology because it streamlines operation into the kitchen. It saves, reduces workload for your staff because no one at the counter and so on. However, what we did at Toverland was, okay, we asked ourselves the question, okay, if we implement this technology, what happens to the guest interaction? Because there's still a guest interaction, right? Because a guest orders their food, they get paged with their pager or whatever, and they go pick up the food at the counter. Make sure that the guest interaction that remains, in this case, the guest picking up the food at the counter, make sure that these moments, these touch points with your guest actually really make a difference. So make sure your staff has checked that the order is complete. Make sure they ask, okay, do you need some mayonnaise or some ketchup or whatever? Make sure that the guest interactions that remain count. And it was actually Walt Disney who once said, you can design and create the most beautiful place, the most wonderful place in the world, but in the end, it takes people to make the dream a reality. And I truly believe that in leisure and hospitality, we are in the business of selling emotions, selling memories to our guests. So think about this. But what is then the common denominator for successful companies in delivering an excellent customer experience, right? For some, I don't know if some of you know, for instance, Coolblue in the Netherlands. They are known for their very customer-centric approach to doing business. Or Efteling, the largest theme park in the Netherlands. They've been proclaimed the most customer-friendly company of the Netherlands a few times in a year. Well, what is the common denominator for all those companies? And I believe that it's a culture of excellence. It's a culture in which we put a lot of value, a lot of emphasis on excellence and on hospitality. Because you can have like the very right strategy, but if you don't get your culture right, you're dead. So having said so, a culture of excellence is very important in delivering an excellent customer experience. So what are the elements that make up a culture of excellence? And of course, in the 10 minutes that I can talk about this, it's way too short to talk about all the elements that go into creating a culture of excellence. But these are the 4 key takeaways for me. First of all, I think it's very, very, very important for everybody, no matter how big or small your company, to have a clear mission and vision statement. Have a common goal. Make sure that your staff knows, okay, this is the common goal we're working towards, almost like a lighthouse, which guides ships, in the sea. Make sure this is where we're going. A good vision, a good common goal, actually provides your staff with guidance. It's sort of like the boundary conditions where they know, okay, we can operate, within these boundary conditions. And make sure you also have core values. So who are we? How do we work? How do we collaborate? But also for recruitment, right? If you know, okay, this is our corporate culture, this is how we work together, this is who we are as a company, it makes recruitment much, much easier. I believe that hospitality starts internally. First, look at your firm. Oftentimes, when I visit companies, I actually see a lot of competition between departments. I mean, we're all, fighting for the resources and all for the budgets, and I get it. It makes sense. However, to your customer, your guest, they view the firm as a black box. When they're calling the firm, they don't know if they're talking to a marketing employee or an operation employee or whatever. So first, hospitality has to start internally. Make sure you have a culture in which departments work together and in which we're hospitable towards one another. And I think this is the most important, hospitable leadership. And basically what I mean with hospitable leadership is do as I do and lead by example. For instance, at Toverland, we forced our senior staff, our senior management, to pick up any trash they would find when they were walking around the park. So they would, for instance, have a break and they would stroll around, have a leisurely stroll around the park. We forced them to stop and pick up any trash they would find. Why? Well, first of all, we want the park to be clean, of course. But second, and most important of all, we actually ask the same from our general staff, our general employees. And how can you expect something from them if you're not if you don't lead by example? So it's very important, hospitable leadership. Do as I do and lead by example. That's the only way you're going to get your message across to the rest of your staff. A very quick case study. At Toverland, a few years ago, I think 2016, 2017, we actually introduced a new vision. And our vision was magische gelukservaringen creëren, which basically translates to creating magical moments of happiness. And we also have some core values, so how do we work together, who are we? First of all, getting this new vision across requires a lot of repetition. I mean, it's repetitive, so you repeat, make it, very visible, like put it out in your canteen and so on. So it took a lot of communication to get the message across. But what's very funny is once people started grasping the idea of our new vision, we actually saw the dynamics between people and between teams and departments change. For instance, we noticed that people in a different department, for instance in the food and beverage department, actually started giving advice and providing other departments with tips and tricks. So the entire dynamic shifted from, okay, this is my department and these are my goals and objectives and I have to achieve this. They actually shifted from this to, okay, we have a collective goal to achieve. And another example that I really liked about this vision is, before we introduced it, there would be, for instance, this kid at one of our food and beverage locations, and they would buy an ice cream. And when they walked back to their parents, they would drop the ice cream, they would be upset, of course, but then our staff would do nothing about it. They would just clean it up, and that's it. After we changed our vision, and we actually introduced it to the company, we saw something very strange, very, very good actually happening. We had the same example with the kid dropping their ice cream. And what happened? Our staff actually provided the kid with a new ice cream. Before, they didn't feel the liberty, they didn't feel empowered to actually act upon it. But after we introduced a new vision, so these, like I said, these boundary conditions, the common goal to create magical moments of happiness, they thought, hey, maybe I have the liberty to provide them with a new ice cream because, you know, we want to create magical moments. And don't get me wrong, you don't want your staff to give away everything for free, but we really, really, really like our guests, our staff creating magical moments of happiness. I truly believe that a culture of excellence, a culture in which we empower our staff, in which we value hospitality, it really pays off. It will lead to improved employee satisfaction and performance. Your employees will will start enjoying their job way more. It will also lead to higher guest satisfaction rates in return because, you know, your employees, they really care about your guests, right? That will lead to ambassadorship because a high satisfaction rate, as some of you might know. In leisure, for instance, we always talk about obtaining a 9+ in guest satisfaction. I guess most of you are aiming for that as well. Because if we have a 9+ in guest satisfaction, our regular guest actually becomes an ambassador of our brand because they really, really like the service they received. Ambassadorship will also lead to higher return rates, right? Because why bother look for a new hotel in Amsterdam if I know I received an amazing service last time at, you know, a place I've been before? And that will also lead to profitability. So, you know, customers will never love a company before its employees love it first. So please create a culture in which you facilitate your staff to love your company, because then your guests will start loving your company in return. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Teun.
Welcome.
I'm going to open the floor for questions, but I have a question first. You say, as if it's very easy, we introduce a new culture, creating magical moments of happiness. I don't know if I translated the right way, but in that direction. My question is, how do you do and go on in such a process? Because you mentioned it's important to have core values, but how do you discover those? How do you mine those? Could you enlighten us a bit more on how you did that and how that could work if you want to copy that?
Yeah, sure. Is my mic still on? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so, I mean, it's, like I said, it's not as easy as it sounds, of course. It takes a long time. What we did, actually, first of all, in creating our new vision and mission and also our core values, we included everybody, like every single layer of the company. I mean, oftentimes it's very top-down oriented, and I mean, sometimes you have to be top-down, but we really thought like, okay, the core values actually have to represent everybody in our company, not only the top management team, but it has to, I mean, reflect everybody. So we did like these, we called them brouwketel sessies, which is, how do you say in English, like, you know, like these magical pots where you put like, make potions in, you know, like, so we had like these sessions in which we would just throw words at each other, but every single level of the staff. So once we actually found those core values and you know, established a new vision and mission, we actually started implementing it to the operation and work floor, and that takes, like I said, a lot of repetition. For instance, at Toverland, we had a daily briefing for all of our staff, like most of you maybe have. So every morning, the duty manager of the day would say, okay, guys, let's create more magical moments of happiness, which in a sense might sound a bit childish almost, but it really helps in getting the message across. And what was really funny is after a few months of repetition, actually our staff really started engaging and the dialogue started happening. So during these briefings in the morning, they would actually mention examples from last day or like other work days, and say, hey, this is what I came across, or this is what I did in creating magical moments of happiness. And actually that's like this really, it makes it more easy, for other people to understand and to, also grasp the vision, So you have to make it really practical, really visible. We put up the vision and the core values really big in the canteen and stuff, but it takes a lot of time, yeah.
So be very practical about it and repeat it a lot. That's
Absolutely,
one of the things that I get. Thank you so much for this. Are there any questions in the audience at this point? There is. Let me hand you the microphone. Let's make sure it's on. Here you go.
Got it. Yep. I agree. A child's smile is more valuable than a few coins. So, love that. But just curious, what other examples did you guys come across that also were implemented across the company?
In a theme park.
Anywhere.
Oh, anywhere. Let me think. So do you mean like practical examples of what started happening, or like? Yeah, I'm just curious. Okay. Let me think. There's so many examples. So what I think is the most beautiful thing about actually this vision is, and I said it before, so I don't want to repeat, but it's actually people feeling empowered to create the experience. Like I heard the speaker before me tell, all those SOPs and stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is important to have sort of the boundary conditions, like I said, but what I really, really like is creating the sort of like a culture in which your staff feels the liberty to move and feels the liberty to act, upon a situation, because we can't working with people, so we can't really predict, how they're gonna respond. So, for instance, the ice cream example, probably the best example. But also, I remember this one example where there was this disabled kid in the roller coaster, and they would enter the ride via the exit, less boundaries and stuff. But they enjoyed the ride so much, and actually policy in the ride operations department was just one ride, you have to go again, there are other people waiting. But then after having changed the vision, the ride operators would feel the liberty to actually say, okay, you can go like 5 times. It's fine, and other people understand it as well. The people waiting, they just understood, okay, this is a very special moment for this disabled person. I mean, very, unlucky. But so like these kind of it's the small things. I mean, we don't want to give away like free tickets all the time. It's the small things actually that make a huge difference, I think, yeah.
As they always have in our industry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Teun, Dielesen.
Thank you.
It's already time for our last speaker in this block, which we shortened a bit because we were missing one speaker, but let's concentrate on who we have, because he's last, but he's definitely not least. We're very happy to welcome to the stage on a new topic, which is on sustainability. Please help me in welcoming Austin Eaton, Head of Marketing for Clean the World, Europe and UK. You have to.
Oh. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, my speaker. Is that good?
Is he on?
Hello? Can you hear me? All good. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Austin Eaton. I'm Head of Marketing for Clean the World in Europe and the UK. So today, obviously, we're touching on sustainability is the future. And within this specific section, I want to talk about why implementing sustainable practices within hotels is so vitally important in this day and age, and also to introduce you to Clean the World and our hospitality recycling program and how that can support hotels in their ESG objectives. So, try and use this clicker. There we go. Okay. So, as I just mentioned, what I wanted to touch upon was why implementing sustainable practices is so important for hotels in this day and age. So, a bit of a background on data, which I'm sure you all will know. The hospitality industry contributes to a significant amount of waste annually. So, it's reported around 289,700 tons of waste each year come from the hospitality industry. Also now, in 2024, with the recent CSRD, the Corporate Social Responsibility Directive, which has come into place for larger organizations in Europe, means that implementing sustainable practices is more important now than ever, and making sure we have sustainable reporting is so important, and that aspect around data and data-driven sustainability reporting is crucial. So we're seeing sustainability reporting becoming more of a should do to now having regulations behind them and becoming more of a have to. And these policies and regulations are set to come into place across various other sizes of organizations within the next few years. Okay, so a little bit about Clean the World. If you don't know about Clean the World is a global leader in sustainable recycling solutions, recycling soap and plastic bottled amenities from over 8,000 partners around the world. Clean the World has an impact reporting system which all of our partners have access to, which allows them to track, measure, and share the impacts that they are making. So here's a little bit of a time frame of Clean the World's journey. So we started in the US in 2009, recycling soap into new bars of soap, which are then distributed to communities in need, both domestically and internationally. As Clean the World has grown, we've grown into various regions around the world, including Asia in 2014 and Europe in 2018. As we've grown into various regions around the world, we've understood the different recycling needs depending on the regions. For example, here in Europe, there's a heavy demand for a recycling solution to plastic bottled amenity waste, which in 2022, we're very proud to come up with a circular solution for our hospitality partners recycling their plastic bottled amenity waste. So having a soap fully circular process as well as a fully circular process for plastic bottled amenity waste. So as mentioned, here are our global regions that we operate within. So we're in the US, of course, where we started, in Dominican Republic, Canada, in London. We have operations here in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, that is where our European headquarters are, and in Asia. So a little bit about our impact. We partner with the majority. How do I go back? Is that okay? Sorry. Oh. Can I go back to 2 slides? Red? Cool. We partner with the majority of large hotel brands and chains around the world, including Hilton. And with this impact, we recycle from around close to 1.5 million hotel rooms a day. And this allows us to create enormous impact. For example, you can see here on the screen, since 2009, we've donated over 80 million bars of soap. We've collected over 7 million kilograms of soap. We've collected over 3 million kilos of plastic, diverted over 11 million kilograms of waste from landfill, and supported the carbon footprint reduction of over 10 million kilograms of CO2e. So as mentioned at the start, all of our partners have access to an impact reporting system, which allows them to track, measure, and share the impacts that they are making. This is something, data, which we were talking about in previous discussions, which I've been listening to, is such an important part of sustainability reporting and going forward in this new world with a sustainable focus at hand. So our data is third-party audited and by globally recognized standards, which provides our partners with the confidence in sharing their data externally. So in 2023, last year, we partnered with the City of Amsterdam as part of their Impact Deal initiative to support the city towards circularity and sustainability objectives. One of the key objectives and goals within that Impact Deal was to partner with 50% of hotels within the City of Amsterdam, hotel rooms, on board the Clean the World program by 2025 to support the objectives within the city and also to provide objectives to support social impact as well. So, unfortunately, the PowerPoint is a bit skew-if today. However, some of my take-home points that I wanted to bring was the importance of sustainable practices within the hospitality industry. And here are a few solutions to support hotels on their sustainable journeys. For example, having a clear strategy and objectives at hand, finding the right sustainable partners to implement whichever practices that they are looking to implement. Establishing effective messaging to communicate to guests is vitally important, and ensuring tools to report effectively on your impact, like Clean the World's impact reporting system as well. Thank you so much for listening to me today. My name is Eaton, as mentioned, and yeah, open the floor to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Austin. I think what you mentioned and what you touched upon is extremely important. When I looked at quickly at the list of the companies that you currently work with, I saw quite big companies.
Yeah.
Do you offer any opportunities in this system, or do you have any advice for smaller independent hotels that are working with this?
Absolutely. And as I mentioned at the start, we've grown into Europe, and we've really started, I suppose, growing since post-COVID. In Europe, and as we grow into the different regions, we're able to understand the different requirements and needs of the hospitality sector within that region. In Europe, it's anticipated that 64% of hotels are under the capacity of 75 rooms. So we are in the process of establishing more, collaborative methods to support small hotels in also joining our hospitality recycling program. So yeah, this is certainly something we are hoping to support, but we do partner with a lot of smaller hotels in the European region.
Yeah, well, that's good to know, because many of the hotels represented here are in that area. Are there any questions currently in the audience? We didn't have many questions. There is one. Let me hand you the microphone. If you can hold it close to your mouth, it's better.
You're now talking about hotels. Do you also do this for retail?
Currently not. Only specifically for hotels and resorts. Yeah.
There appears to be an opportunity for that, but I'm sure you found about that. I think this is going to bring this session to a closure. Thank you so much for doing this and for being willing to step up to the plate and start a bit earlier, as we're missing one speaker. Thank you so much for joining our session. Please stay here and give a warm applause to Austin.